On number 2, this is a good candidate for plug and chug because they're giving us a table of values and asking us which equation defines the function. So here we can just plug these values in for x and f of x and see if we get a true statement. Now when we do this for x equals 1, a is 2 plus 3, which is 5. Okay, so that one could be this one, 3 plus 2 is also 5. 4 plus 1 is also 5, and 5 times 1 is 5. So this one doesn't do us much good. But if we start looking at the second coordinate pair, so 3 times 2 plus 3 equals 6 plus 3, which is 9. So A cannot be my answer. For B, 3 times 3 plus 2 is 9 plus 2, which is 11, which is not 13, so it is not my answer. Here, 4 times 3 plus 1 equals 12 plus 1, which is 13, so that could be my answer. And then here, 3 times 5 is 15, so that's not my answer, so C must be. On number 4, this one just has a list of values that you're going to plug in for C and D, so this is a good candidate for plug and chug if you don't see the logic right away on this one. So here, you want to start with your easy numbers because if we don't have to use fractions, we don't want to. So if I plug in 3 here, so 3 times 3 is 9. That does not equal 5, so that's not my answer. Okay, so then we're going to try D. 3 times 5 is 15. That does not equal 5, so that is also not my answer. So now we are left with fractions. So let's just work our way back up. So here, 3 times 5 thirds, and then here, this is in the top and that's in the bottom, so they cancel. So 5 does equal 5, and we can stop because our answer is B. On number 6, this is a word problem that's going to ask us to set up a system of equations. Once we do that, this is going to be a good candidate for plug and chug because it's asking for just how many novels, so you're only solving for one of the variables, and these are very concrete numbers. So here, if each novel is $4, so the total cost is going to be 4N, and then each magazine is $1, so 4N plus M is her cost, and she spent $20. Here, she bought a total of 11 novels and magazines combined, so the number of novels plus the number of magazines equals 11. So now we can just go in and plug in these numbers for N, find M in this equation, and then see if this one is true. So for A, when N is 2, that makes M 9. So 4N is 4 times 2 plus 9, which does not equal 21. So A is not our answer. For B, when N is 3, M is 8. So 4 times 3 novels plus 8 magazines, that's 12 plus 8, which is 20, so B is my answer. On number 8, this is definitely math we don't want to have to do, even with the calculator. So what we can do is we can pick a value for x, say x equals 1. And then we can plug in 1 every time we see an x. And now we have something nice and easy we can put into our calculator. So in this case, you would put 1.5 minus 2.4, that quantity squared, minus 5.2 minus 6.4. Make sure you put those parentheses in your calculator, otherwise you're going to get an incorrect answer. Here you should get 2.01. Now what you're going to do is here, every time you see an x, you'll plug in a 1 as well, and then you'll just start putting these in your calculator until you get the same number. In this case, the answer choice that comes out as 2.01 is answer choice C. On number 9, this is a word problem. So we're going to be looking for the increase in distance, which they give us in kilometers, and we want it in miles. So the difference between 42 and 40 is 2 kilometers, and then 1.6 kilometers per mile. So we're going to put the 1.6 in the bottom, and then 1 mile to convert our units. So now I can just plug these answers in to my calculator to see if this works. So when I have 2 divided by 1.6, I'm going to get an answer choice, so I don't even actually have to plug these in, I just plug this in. This number comes out to be a little more than 1, and it's 1.25. On number 12, this system of equations is a good candidate for plug and chug because this 1/2 y that is given in the first equation appears as it is in the second equation. So we can plug in the values of x, and then we know that 1/2 y is 4, and we can plug in these values until we get a statement that's true, where it equals 2. So we don't want to start with b because it has a fraction. We'll come back to that one if we eliminate all the other 3. So we'll start with a, where if x equals 3. So here, 3 minus 4, that does not equal 2. So a is not my answer. Here, for c, if x is 4, and then minus 1/2 y, which is 4, that equals 0. So that is not my answer. If x is 6 minus 4, that does equal 2. So D is my answer, and we didn't have to deal with fractions. Number 13 is another system of inequalities that is a good candidate for plug and chug because we're looking for just ordered pairs that satisfy the system. So this second equation is much easier to work with because we don't have to multiply either number by anything. So we're going to look at each of these and see if it makes the second statement true. So for these, remember an ordered pair is x and then y. So we're going to take x minus y and see if it's bigger than 1. So here, x is -2 minus a -1 is a +1, but that still gives us -1, which is smaller, so a cannot be my answer. Okay. When x is -1 and y is 3, that's -3, which is -4, which is definitely smaller than 1, so b is also not my answer. For c, if x is 1 and then minus 5, all right, so that is also -4, and that means C is not my answer. So just by doing that, we know that D must be. Number 14 is a good candidate for plug and chug if you don't know how to calculate the probability based on the question. So here, they give you probabilities, which would be a decimal times the total number of surgeons. And then they're asking for the probability that the selected one is an orthopedic whose specialty is research. So we're looking for one where we multiply this by 607 and we end up with something close to 74. In this case, we want to start with either B or C because as these go from smallest to biggest, if, for example, B is too big or too small, we can eliminate some choices above or below it. So let's start with B. If I put 0.196 times 607 in my calculator, I end up with 118.97, which is bigger than 74, so that cannot be my answer. Because it's too big, I know my answer must be smaller, which is A. Number 16 is a good candidate for plug and chug because you have one piece of information and then 4 different ages. So even if you don't quite understand this table, you can look at this and you know you're looking for an American elm, so you're looking for 4 as your answer. Now this times this doesn't give us 4 for any of these. So what we can do is just take this number divided by 12 and see which one comes out to be 4. So if you can recognize that, that's great, but if you have a calculator, then this one's pretty easy. We just plug them in and we go 24 divided by 12 equals 2, 36 divided by 12 equals 3, 40 divided by 12 is 3.3 repeating, and 48 divided by 12 equals 4, and then we go back up to our table. Yep, that's my answer. On number 23, this is a good candidate for plug and chug because we have essentially coordinate pairs in our table here, and we're being asked which of the following functions represents that relationship. So we can plug coordinate pairs in for P and R of P, where this is P when we take out the zeros, and R of P is this column. And then we can see which one is a true statement. So we'll start with Clearwater Lane, and we'll plug those in for A through D. And if we still have 2 left, then we'll start looking at other points. So for A, when we plug this into our calculator, 2.5 times 128 minus 870 is negative 550, which is not 950. So that's not our answer. Okay, for B, 5 times 128 plus 165 is 805. That is also not our answer. For C, 6.5 times 128 plus 440 is 1272. That's not our answer. By process of elimination, our answer is D, and if you check that, 7.5 times 128 minus 10 is 950. Question number 24 is a good candidate for plug and chug because we have 4 original prices and we know what the discounts were, and so we can check which one of those gives us the Glenview Street price of $140,000. So because these all range from high to low, we want to start with either B or C so we can eliminate some of our answer choices. So let's start with C this time. So for this, an original price, so it's going to be this number, and then we're going to multiply times 0.6 in our calculator because that's a 40% discount. And then we're going to have an additional 20% discount, so you're paying 80% of that discounted price. So we're going to plug those in, and then we'll hit equals, and then we'll get some number. So for C, 233,300 times 0.6 times 0.8 is 111,984, which is smaller than $140,000. So we know C is not our answer, and because D is even smaller, it also is not. And now, even if you didn't want to plug in these, you're down to only 2 choices. But let's keep going. So if we plug in B, 291,700 times 0.6 times 0.8, we end up with 140,016. Now, it's $16 off, but that's pretty close, and this does say approximate, so that's our answer. Number 27 is a good candidate for plug and chug because we can calculate the total number of points if there are 8 players on average scored 14.5 points. 8 times 14.5 means we know there was a total of 116 points scored in the game. So now we can take 116 minus our answer choices, and then we can take that and divide it by 7 to see if it equals 12. So in this case, we're just going to start plugging and chugging down the row. Because these are from smallest to largest, we want to start with either B or C so we can eliminate some choices as soon as we have our first calculation. So we'll start with B. And so here, 116 minus 24 equals 92. And 92 divided by 7 equals 13. So we know that this number was not enough points to get the average of the other 7 down to 12. So A and B are not my answer choices. So let's go to the next one. 116 minus 32 is 84, and 84 divided by 7 is 12. So C is my answer. Number 29 is an excellent candidate for plug and chug because we have a statement with X and Y and our answers are coordinate pairs. So we can plug in our X and Y values and see if we get a true statement where this comes out to be negative 20. Before we start plugging and chugging though, we can actually eliminate 2 answer choices. So our answer must come out to be negative, and there are no negative signs over here. So in order for this side to be negative, we must have a negative number in one of these 2 or both of those terms. So C and D have both positive numbers, so they cannot be our answer choice. So now we'll go ahead and start with A and we'll plug numbers in. So negative 20 squared is positive 400, and then plus 20 times negative 20 is actually going to be minus 400. And then 16 squared is 256. And then 16 times negative 16 is minus 256. So these cancel and these cancel, so we come out to be 0, which means A is not our answer choice, so B must be.